Hi, this is Nama Dimitri. One of my largest failures as a gardener, and it's a consistent failure too, is with roses. Roses are just absolutely gorgeous, and there's an enormous tradition in gardening about gardening with roses. Here are some of them, and they smell great as well. These, I think, are called old type of roses. What do all these things mean around roses, and why are they so incredibly complicated to have in your garden? There are an extraordinary number of varieties. So a rose is not a rose. It totally depends on what kind of rose and how you treat it, and whether it succeeds in your garden, in the particular ecosystem that you are, or in the particular part of your garden that you're going to put it. Depends on what kind of roses you have. But before, let's look at some of the ones here. I'm surrounded by roses here because I'm at a rose garden. This rose garden has roses everywhere, and they are and a lovely little fountain here. And they're shorter type of roses, and they're roses that climb up on a tree, and then on a beautiful trail is created for that. And they're pinks and they're reds over there, and all other kinds of roses that smell, roses that come out in large bouquets, with color, without color, big, small, sensual, nonsensical, everything. Roses are trick, and a lovely reflecting pool just behind me. Check this one out. Lovely, just to reflect the sky. And these are all roses. Roses are tricky because we've played around with them for so long, and we've created so many variations with so many characteristics. This is a process called hybridization. It's kind of like an amateur genetics without actually playing with the DNA. What gardeners have done for thousands of years is to try to isolate particular characteristics that they like about a particular rose and bred them for those particular characteristics. Now, what are these characteristics? They can be color, they can be smell or shape, or longevity. How long does the rose stay as a rose before it dies on the branch? So let's take, for example, this particular rose. This is a bunch of roses, yellow ones that come out in this particular shape called a bouquet, like that looks like a bouquet. So basically, if I cut this here, I have a bouquet of 7 roses altogether. These types of roses are usually called floribundas. Another example, this particular rose, as you can see, is on a stem. It's supported by a metal tube, and it's on a stem that goes all the way down to the earth, and then it goes up, and poof, it creates this rose explosion. This is usually in gardening called a standard. The standard is the piece of wood that goes all the way down, and it supports this particular rose plant. Now, what happens to make things so complicated is that what we're actually looking is 2 different kind of roses. One part of the rose is the root system that you don't see, that's of course underground, and the stick is one rose, and that's a rose that is very, very good at making roots and pumping nutrients and water out of the ground and keeping the root system disease-free. So that's rose number 1. Rose number 2 is what you see from here up, which is a rose that is very, very good at making beautiful yellow flowers that smell and grow in bouquets, and they last a long time, and they're beautiful for your vase and for your garden. What has happened is, so this is a chimera, if you want. It's 2 different creatures, 2 different animals, plants in this case, put together. So what happens here is that this particular, the yellow rose that you see, was actually grafted on this standard, on this stick and roots. So you get the best of both worlds. You get the strength of this particular rose with the roots, and you get the beauty of this particular rose with the beautiful flowers that you see here. So if you tried to just plant this directly without the partner underneath, then it could possibly, because this was bred and selected for beautiful roses and color and smell and all this, it was not necessarily selected for good roots. So maybe it would have very weak roots, and maybe it wouldn't be able to survive and thrive and produce such beautiful roses. So the cooperation between these two different species is what works, and why you pay extra money at the greenhouse for buying this kind of expensive roses. The other advantage of having a standard is, of course, that this elevates the actual roses from the ground, and you can have them at tree level, at my head level, so you can actually smell them without bending down, as is the case with these particular roses that are, or with those over there that are at knee level. This was a very brief introduction. One can go on and on and on forever about roses, because they really are complex, and there's so many varieties and so many ways that man has played with them, and they have responded with all kinds of particular requirements as to waters, fertilizers, type of earth, and all that. But I just want to give you some of the highlights so that you have some idea of what you're going to get into next time you go to a greenhouse and you buy yourself a rose bush. Noma Dimitri from the garden. Bye.